So hello. So this is one of my most requested cakes during the holidays. So today I am going to make a red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting. So I'm going to show you the cake first and I'll show you the frosting in a later video. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and get started. And what I always like to do is start with the dry ingredients. So I like to have a separate dish. I like to keep my wet and dry ingredients separate. So for right now, I'm going to do some flour. So we're going to do 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. All right, there's my half cup. So we have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. We'll start with that. Also, I would like to add all my other dry ingredients, which include the cocoa. I have a tablespoon of Hershey's cocoa or cocoa mix powder. All right, and put that in. I have a teaspoon of baking soda. So we're going to put that in as well. Also, I like to go ahead and add my salt. So, and we're just going to do maybe about a teaspoon of salt. All right. All right, so with this, I like to take a wire whisk so that I can also break up all of these clusters in here and just get everything kind of incorporated together. So it helps to break down that flour and then get all the ingredients just incorporated well throughout the cake, you know. So you don't want like patches of different things. It will not allow your cake to rise correctly. So you want to make sure that you do all of this first, get it well incorporated in there. The wire whisk is probably the best way to do that. So yeah, so that's good enough. So what I'll do is just sit this aside. And now I will work on the wet ingredients. And those are the ingredients that I will place into my mixer here. So I have this KitchenAid mixer, which I love. I have the clear bottom. This is great for presentation so you can see everything that's going on. So I'm just gonna work with this first and then we'll get everything incorporated and then we're gonna mix the dry in with the wet. So let's get started. I've already pre-measured everything, as you can see. So it's great to have everything pre-measured before you start. That way you, this presentation doesn't really take that long because it's instructional, it'll take just a little while longer. But when you do it yourself, it's much easier when you just kind of have everything prepped. So we're gonna start with 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. So I'm gonna put that in first. All right, I know a lot of cakes use butter. For this one, we're going to use vegetable oil. It just goes well with the red velvet. And the next thing I'm going to add are 2 large eggs. And with eggs, what I like to do is crack them separately in a clear container. The reason for that is because when you crack the egg, then you can see if any of the shell pieces are in there. And that way you can just get them out easily. Once you have them in there, you can clearly see them and you can get them out because you do not want eggshells in your cake. All right, so I've cracked 2 large ones here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and add those into the wet. So I'll just pour them all in as they are. All right, so the next thing I want to add are just some other elements for flavor, right? So the next one is this is a teaspoon of vanilla. I like to use pure vanilla because it's just a little bit more pungent, you know, instead of the imitation. So, and then the other thing I like to use as well is a tablespoon of white vinegar, right? So you think, it's funny though, you think that the white vinegar is going to be pungent in the cake, but it's really not. It's just going to really evaporate just like any other thing. But it's really here to allow this red food coloring and all this stuff to blend in together, okay? So that's what the purpose of that is. And so I will save the coloring until later. And then we also have buttermilk. So now here's the thing is that I'm going to turn this on low and I'll show you how everything gets incorporated. because now we're going to add sugar. And sugar, oh, by the way, I'm preheating my oven at 350 degrees. The rack is on center and it's ready to go. So when I'm done with this, it can easily slide into the oven. I have 3 pans, 3 8-inch round pans that I'm going to put the batter in. So this will go into the oven. So the next thing I need to add is the sugar. So I have 2 cups of sugar that I'm going to add to this mixture. All right, so the sugar is in. So now that's all the ingredients. So, well, actually that's not all the ingredients. We have 2 additional ingredients and I will show you when that should go in. So the next you want 1 8-ounce bottle of red food dye or coloring, right? So you can get this at any market and it's exactly one of these bottles too. So what you want to do is just open that, pour it straight in. Just pour it slowly so it doesn't splash or anything. And then that way you have that red color all throughout your entire cake. So and fortunately you have this clear glass so you can see how it all gets incorporated. All right, see that really bright red color? So of course this is going to be knocked down just a bit because you remember we used cocoa powder in the dry ingredients. So that's going to give it a little bit more, not necessarily a bright red, but it's going to be a little bit toned down red. Perfect for a cake. All right, so we're going to let that go. So what I'm going to do is turn this off. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dry ingredients that I already have pre-mixed here. And then we're going to start incorporating this into the wet with the wet. And how I'm going to loosen it up as I go is by using a cup of buttermilk. So this cup of buttermilk, as I'm adding a 1/3 portion of this dry, I'm going to add a 1/3 of the buttermilk, and that keeps it loosened so that the mixer can continue to go. And then hopefully we don't get a lot of splashing of all of this dry ingredients at one time. So you just want to be very careful and slow with that process. So I'm just going to turn it back on again. All right, now you should use a spatula to do this. And I just do a scoop at a time. All right, so that is the last of the buttermilk. It is all now incorporating into this batter. And then sometimes what I like to do is take a spatula and just kind of push down the sides, because when you get that flour and any of the ingredients on the side, you just want to make sure everything gets in, because we want to use all the ingredients in this. All right, so we'll let that go just for about 30 seconds to a minute. All right, so guess what? That is it. So I just turn this off. All right, so that is our batter. So let me just show you how it looks when it comes out. So check that out. So if you look at that, you can just kind of take it off, spoon it off your blade here. You have a nice, rich red color. Yeah, so that is fantastic. So let me just get a taste here. That is perfect for this cake. So you can taste the sweetness. You can taste the graininess of the sugar, but of course that will cook out. You can taste the vanilla that we put in there and a little bit of the cocoa. So those are the main ingredients that really gives this cake a real special effect. So anyway, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you how to put it in the pan, and then we're going to get it in the oven. We're going to bake it. Okay, so I'm back with you. I've cleaned up things just a bit so that you can see everything that I have here. So basically I have 3 8-inch round baking pans. And what I'm going to do is, oh, check out this trick. This is a time saver right here. So if you go out and get this spray that already has the flour incorporated, you don't have to worry about buttering or putting shortening down to first in your pan and then flour later. This right here gets right into it. Let me show you. Just spray it. You can spray it all along those ridges and those crevices and stuff like that. Easy peasy. Check that out. So you get a full coat of exactly what you need. So I'll do this for all 3 of them. It doesn't have to be thick at all, but just make sure that it is well coated. There you go. All right, so next up is pretty simple. So we take our batter here, and I like to use a spatula, but that way I can get everything on the inside of this. So, and then we want to spread it evenly between the 3. I like to eyeball it, but you know, in some cases you could just take a scoop or a cup and then just, you know, make sure that they're even. But I pretty much can eyeball it at this point. So whichever your preference, you shouldn't be a big deal to get it all even. So just start out with just a portion of it. This is what I like to do. Just start out with some of it. Don't put the entire third in. And then you can always go back, you know, and add more to the ones that seem a little bit low. I mean, you can also try to weigh these if you want to be perfect. But, you know, my thing is that baking is all about the love that you put into it. So if you have the love, you want to share the love, you know, it will reflect in how your cake turns out. So, and you will pay attention to all the details along the way. You're just not going to throw things together. In other words, you're going to make sure that you're using some of the best ingredients. You're using the best care. You're using everything to just make every part of this special. All right, so what I have here, I have finished up here, and so now I just want to twirl this around just a little bit, just so that everything is coated on the edges, and it looks like everything is a bit even. Now, if you do feel like one is bigger, taller than the other, you can just take your spatula, scoop it out, and even it out from that point. But I think we are good to go with this. So what I'm going to do now is just get this in the oven, 350 degrees. And you can always use a toothpick to check it, right? So just take a clean toothpick, stick it in there. If any batter still adheres to the toothpick, that means it's not done. If it comes out and it's clear and clean, that means it's done. Take it out, let it rest. And then once it's cool, then we can add all the frosting. So, all right, so let me get these in the oven. Okay, I am back. I have finished up my frosting, and also these layers have baked in the oven at 350 degrees at 25 minutes. So I'll make sure that I have that 25 minutes. I might have said another time before, but anyway, it's 25 minutes, and you could do the toothpick test just to stick the toothpick in, raise it up. If there's anything still on there, then it needs to cook maybe a couple seconds more. But once it comes out clean, you're ready to go. You want to put it on some cooling racks, let it cool about 10 or 15 minutes. And then once it is cool to touch, we are ready to add frosting, okay? So what I'm going to do next is take my frosting here. And one other trick is that I like to take my first 2 layers and place them down. So the top, I flip it over and place it down. Then I reserve one, which is this one here, that is a little, that's really nice looking. And I want to set that on top up, so that the top is faced up. So you kind of have that rounded dome effect on the top of the cake. So anyway, I'm reserving this one for that. The other 2, I will flip downward. All right, so I just want to load this up with the cream cheese frosting. All right, so let's get it in there, spread it around as much as possible. All right, and you notice how this is slipping a little bit. So let me show you one thing that I do to keep it in place. And I meant to do that before. If I move this to the side, if I just take a dollop of this frosting, put it right there in the center, actually put this right on top, then so you see that it doesn't move. So that is a good trick for when you're frosting a cake. And you can actually let it sit for a little while so that it's not moving all over the place. So because it'll harden just a little bit. But anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue to frost the center. I like to go a little thick in the center, right? And so that looks really, really good. So let me continue this on with the second layer, and then I'll show you how to do the top layer. All right, so let's go ahead and add this top layer. As I stated, like this is more of the dome top here. So I'm going to put this face up on the cake. I'm gonna put it in position. And if ever your cake looks like it did not cook, you know, evenly on the sides, you can always change your layers around just so you can flip-flop the high and low edges to give it a perfect cake. So this one actually looks very, very nice. You can see that it came together well. It cooked very evenly. So now what I want to do is just load this up with frosting. And then I have a couple tools that I'm going to use on the side just to give it a little bit of a decorative touch. So I'm just going to continue with the cake. Okay, now I will load up the sides. And I want this cake to look a little rustic. So I don't want to be, since I went thick on the inside, I am going to have a thin layer around the sides because I do want a little bit of the red velvet to peek through because it's such a beautiful color. I mean, like, look at the color of this cake. I want it to kind of come through the frosting just a little bit. So I'm going to give it somewhat of a rustic look. Look. So there's no need to cover up all of that red velvet. And plus, it's always good for people to be able to identify what the cake is before they even get a chance to taste it. So it's just a really nice look. So I'm going to clean up the top here. All right. All right, so let me just smooth it out just a little bit. All right, so look at that. It is so fantastic looking. So I actually love the way it came out. So since this is going to be a presentation for someone else, and like I said, I do want a little bit of the red velvet to show on the sides because I love for people to be able to know exactly what cake they're getting ready to eat. So I have some tools here that I like to use. And this one here, I mean, I don't know what to call it, but I use it as a scratch tool. So basically, I'm going to take this, go around the cake just to make a little design, just to make it a little bit more festive for the presentation. So you can see how it's all coming together on that side. All right, simple as that. See now how it has these kind of stripes, these striations throughout? That is a really, let me show it to you. It kind of has that look. So I have one last thing that I want to add to this cake because like I said, this is pretty much a holiday cake. So guess what? I'm going to make it snow. Last part, like I said, I just want to make it snow. I want to give it a festive look. So what I like to do is add white chocolate to the cake. And what I want to do is make sure that it's really flaky and snowy on the top, just to give it some dimension. So what I like to do is take a good piece of white chocolate. And then I just take, you know, a little grate like this. And then I like to just grate over the top as if it was snowing. Look at that. Oh my God. So just keep grating over the top. Just to give it the look of like snow So just a little bit more. This is breaking on me. So just a little more. All right, look at that. Okay, that is perfect. Now, so look, let it snow. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is your red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting, dusted with some white chocolate. All right, so I'll see you on the next video. Hope you enjoy.